Color-coded English uses a color code to help students better understand the rules of grammatical relationships. A variety of relationships can be made between words, and grammatical rules are based on these relationships. Different types of words form phrasal relationships. Usually one word in the phrase is the head, and the other is a subordinate. Adjectives are the subordinates of nouns, and adverbs are the subordinates of verbs. Phrases can be combined with each other in different ways. If two phrases form the same part of speech, a conjunction can be used to connect them into a compound phrase. A sentence is typically formed when a noun phrase is combined with a verb phrase. There are 5 types of grammatical relationships. They occur between 3 types of units: words, phrases, and clauses. The 5 relationships are predication, complementation, modification, coordination, and subordination. We classify the units as parts of sentences based on which relationships they form. There are 6 parts of sentences: subject, predicate, head, complement, modifier, and connector. Here are some examples. The 2 words "they laughed" form a clause because they have a predication relationship. The word "they" is the subject and "laughed" is the predicate. The 2 words "play games" form a verb phrase because they have a complementation relationship. The head of the phrase is the word "play," and "games" is its subordinate complement. The 2 words "fun games" form a noun phrase because they have a modification relationship. The word "games" is the head of this phrase, and "fun" is its modifier. You might be wondering, what's the difference between modification and complementation? They both connect subordinates to a head to form phrases. The difference is how the meaning of the head has been changed. Consider the verb phrase "play the piano." The word "play" has a different meaning from the "play" in "play games." In the phrases "boring games" and "fun games," the meaning of the word "games" has been modified, but it hasn't been changed. The 3 words "read" and "write" form a compound verb phrase. The word "and" creates a relationship of coordination. In the verb phrase "play after lunch," there is both a relationship of complementation and modification. The word "lunch" first complements the word "after." The phrase "after lunch" then modifies the word "play." In the verb phrase "play after we eat," there are 3 relationships. The first is a relationship of predication between "we" and "eat," which forms a clause. This clause complements the word "after." Lastly, the clause "after we eat" modifies the word "play." The word "later," the phrase "after lunch," and the clause "after we eat" can all modify the word "play." We use these grammatical classifications in order to explain grammar rules. For example, the sentence "they played after lunch games" is grammatically incorrect because a modifier cannot be placed between a verb and its object. Objects are complements. The word "games" is an object of "played." We can either move the modifying phrase "after lunch" to the end of the predicate, "they played games after lunch," or we can place it before the subject, "after lunch, they played games." We classify words, phrases, and clauses as forming parts of speech in order to indicate their types of meaning. The 8 parts of speech are types of representations. The meanings of adjectives and nouns are related, so they are coded with cool colored underlines, aqua and blue. The meaning of verbs and adverbs are related, so they are coded with warm colored red underlines. Prepositions and conjunctions can be combined with either noun or verb phrases, so they are coded with neutral black underlines. Just because a word can form an adjective doesn't mean it can combine with every noun in a phrase. And not all adverbs can combine with all verbs. The combination of the 4 words in "heavy games slowly seen" has no meaning. However, when words can combine, is because they can form compatible parts of speech, such as the noun and verb phrases in happy students often smile. The meanings of words and their parts of speech are dependent on which words they can be combined with. Some words have multiple meanings. Consider the different meanings of play in play cards, play a piano, play the bad guy in a play. Even though the parts of speech in the last two instances of play are different, their meanings are more similar than the previous two. However, now consider the different parts of speech of the words kind in a kind person, a kind of fruit, like in I like sports, he looks like you, off in fell off the table and call off the game, well in dig a well, plays well, and well, maybe they left. The difference in meaning here is related to the difference in content words and structural words. Nouns and verbs are mostly content words. Content words have intrinsic meanings. Pronouns and prepositions are structural words. Their meaning is more dependent on other words. The word that is structural, but it can form several parts of speech. Examples are, I want that phone. It's not that expensive. The phone that rang. It's lucky that you were there. The grammatical color code is based on 5 colors and 3 line styles. You have seen black underlines used to indicate connectors, aqua and blue to indicate noun phrases, and red to indicate verb phrases. The warm colored orange underlines indicate auxiliary verbs, which always combine with the red underlined main verbs. The 3 line styles are solid, dotted, and dashed. These styles correspond to parentheses, braces, and brackets, which are used to indicate the parts of speech of phrases and dependent clauses. Note that there are only 8 parts of speech, and pronouns are coded the same way as nouns, so why do we need 15 color styles? Notice that 4 of the dashed color styles are used for adverbs. All 3 line styles are used for nouns and pronouns. We've already seen that solid lines indicate subjects and dashed lines indicate objects. These are 2 very different parts of sentences that need to be distinguished. But why do we need dotted blue underlines? Consider the sentence, Kathy, a tiny woman, drives a huge truck. We can see that the word Kathy is part of the subject and the noun truck functions as an object in the predicate. The phrase, a tiny woman, is also part of the subject. It's a type of modifier of the simple subject, Kathy. 2 nouns are often used to refer to the same thing in a variety of grammatical structures. Dotted blue lines are used to show when this occurs. Solid and dotted red underlines similarly need to be used to distinguish main verbs from verb phrases that modify and complement other units. Consider, he plays games to pass the time. The verb plays is the main verb in the predicate. It has a tense, the present tense here, and its form must be in agreement with the subject. The verb to pass is an infinitive. It doesn't have a tense or a subject. The phrase to pass the time forms an adverb to modify the phrase play games. We use solid and dotted orange underlines to indicate auxiliary verbs. The bare infinitive form of main verbs combines with solid orange lines. For example, must speak. The present and past participles of verbs follow orange dotted lines, as in are speaking and have spoken. The word must is called a modal verb. Note that like all other modals, it cannot form an infinitive. The words to must have no meaning. Present and past participles cannot function as main predicate verbs without an auxiliary verb, because, like infinitives, they have no tense without some form of the verb to be or to have. Mastering verb forms is one of the principal challenges of English grammar, and these four color styles make that easier to do. You might have already noticed that prepositions are coded identically to subordinating conjunctions. The word after is a preposition in play after school, and it forms a conjunction in study after we eat. The meaning of after doesn't change whether it is complemented by a noun or a clause. Although many prepositions cannot form conjunctions, and many conjunctions cannot form prepositions, they all form relationships of subordination. There are two color styles for adjectives. There are actually three types of adjectives. In the sentence, the new student seems happy, the words the, new, and happy are all different types of adjectives. Changing the positions of new and happy in the happy students are new does not change their meanings, but it does change their types. The dotted aqua underline style indicates when an adjective forms a relationship of complementation with a verb. Solid aqua underlines indicate modifiers of nouns. Finally, let's clarify why we need four different colors for adverbs. Note that adverbs are always indicated with dashed underlines. Since verbs are indicated with red lines, it's easy to see that the dashed red lines indicate adverbs that modify verbs, as in she drives slowly. And there is no reason to indicate adverbs that modify verbs any differently. We cannot say she drives very, but we can say she drives very slowly. The word very is modifying the adverb slowly. Adverbs of degree, like very, can also modify adjectives, as in, she drives a very big truck. The dash aqua color underline indicates that in this predicate, very is part of the noun phrase, a very big truck. Now consider the sentence, frankly, she does not drive very well. It has four adverbs, all indicated with dashed underlines. What is the first adverb frankly modifying? It's not the main verb. What would driving frankly mean? Frankly expresses the speaker's opinion about the entire clause, not just the verb phrase. It's coded with neutral black to indicate it is neither part of the subject nor part of the predicate. It modifies the entire clause. How about the adverb not? Is it modifying the main verb, drive, or the auxiliary verb, does? We could change does not to the contraction doesn't. The modal verb can actually forms a single word with not. She cannot drive very well. Of course, not can combine with a main verb if it is a form of to be. For example, she is not a good driver. Besides the word not, there aren't many other adverbs of auxiliary verbs. Rather in I would rather walk is one. Not and rather could simply be coded with the same color style as the verb they modify, and we could eliminate one of the 15 color styles. However, every English dictionary lists not as an adverb, so it's best to use a dashed line style when color coding it. Linguists use syntax trees to show the grammatical structures of sentences. Consider the sentence, grammar is the study of the structure of language. Note that the branches of the tree clearly show that all of the words in the predicate combine in a verb phrase before they combine with the subject. The S at the top of the tree stands for sentence. The other nodes are labeled NP for noun phrase, VP for verb phrase, and PP for a prepositional phrase. The parts of speech of each word are labeled. DET stands for determiner, which is a type of adjective. How the tree indicates the syntax is best understood by starting at the end of the sentence. The word language complements the preposition of. The branches connecting them indicate they are immediate constituents. That means these words combine in a prepositional phrase before combining with other words. Similarly, the noun structure first combines with the determiner the to form an NP, a noun phrase, before it is modified by the phrase of language to form the larger noun phrase, the structure of language. The four-word phrase then complements the preposition of to form a prepositional phrase, which modifies the noun phrase, the study. This seven-word phrase, the study of the structure of language, then complements the verb is, forming a verb phrase which functions as the predicate. The one-word subject grammar combines with this seven-word predicate to form a sentence. If you understand the grammatical color code, you can see that it is indicating the same syntax. Syntax trees of complex sentences quickly grow too large. Analyzing entire paragraphs is not practical with syntax trees. Another issue is the movement of grammatical units of immediate constituents. Traditional sentence diagrams also have these same limitations. Consider the question, what will we eat today? Sentence diagrams were invented in the late 19th century. The main parts of sentences, the subject, verb, and complement, are placed on a horizontal line. A vertical line crosses this line to indicate the division of the subject and predicate. It's similar to the top two branches of a syntax tree. A vertical line rising up from the horizontal line indicates an object complement of the main verb. Diagonal lines below the horizontal line indicate modifiers. The diagram indicates that the pronoun what in the question refers to an object complement, but it has to be moved to the end of the diagram. The same repositioning is necessary in syntax trees, and you will see that it occurs in complex sentences as well as questions. The next four parts of this video presentation will deal with the grammatical rules and relationships for noun phrases, verb phrases, clauses, and verbal phrases. A lot of the common mistakes that students make can be caught by grammar software. However, many grammatical structures aren't necessarily incorrect. They just don't communicate the appropriate meaning the composition needs. If you watch all of my videos, you will see that a lot of grammar isn't that difficult. It's tedious and boring, but if you understand the color coding, it's not that hard to understand. Note that it's likely you've read professionally published writing with what are considered grammatical errors. The strictness for what is considered correct grammar varies according to the four modes of discourse: exposition, description, persuasion, and narration. It varies even more in academic and commercial publications. The grammatical rules for an essay that is attempting to persuade you that people are causing the climate to change are different from those of an ad attempting to persuade you to buy a candy bar. Informal oral English often does not obey the same rules as written English. Professional writers often use an informal conversational tone to present information. They occasionally insert and punctuate phrases as sentences. In writing assignments, you are typically required to only use properly punctuated, complete sentences. Consider this quote by the painter Pablo Picasso. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Understand? ColorCodedEnglish.com is a website designed for early readers and ESL students. It offers free apps to learn phonics, vocabulary, and grammar. Please take a look and tell any students you know about it.